So it's now been 6 months since I've left the fleet, and the last time I was out here, a Subaru got stolen from the airport. And on top of that, a few weeks prior, a Jeep got stolen. So I'm curious, how did you guys end up solving the stolen car problem, and how did you move forward with that?
Yeah, and not only was it the stolen Jeep, but we also had a Lexus the same day. So within like 3 weeks, we had 3 cars stolen. Thankfully, 2 of them were recovered, and 1 of them was paid out by insurance in full. So now that's in the past. But going forward, we wanted to make sure that we never had to deal with that again, because obviously clients are trusting us with their cars. Like these are, $50,000 assets or more that people are giving us. And so we did 2 things. So first of all, we changed parking lots. The parking lot that we were working at was the Pikes Peak parking lot, which is renowned with Turo hosts in Denver for being somewhere that cars get stolen from very frequently. And so we actually moved our cars. We work with a company called Park My Carsharing now, and they're based out of the Park DIA lot. And not only are we allowed to use that lot and be completely transparent about what we're doing with the managers there, but we're even working directly with the owner of Park My Carshare, Toby, and he and I have worked together to kind of develop a few things to make it more Turo friendly. So 2 big things about that lot that has an advantage over any other lot is now we're able to charge guests directly for the parking before they even get to the parking lot, and then they don't even have to stop at one of like the turnstiles to get out of the lot. It reads an RFID tag on the car and they just exit. So it reads the tag, gate opens, and they head straight out of the lot. It's so insanely clean. And then the second thing is that we're able to do cleaning in the lot. So last time you were out, we actually got in trouble for cleaning the cars in the parking lot.
And we almost got kicked out of that lot, which was a very interesting story.
Yeah, we basically did get kicked out of the lot. We had to end up taking all of the cars that we were cleaning out of the lot and doing the cleaning right outside the lot and then bringing them back in, which cost us a lot of money in like exiting the lot and coming back in for parking fees. Yeah, now everything gets done in the lot. And Christian, the host that we partnered with, is doing a great job of taking a box truck in. He has a whole generator. He sprays down the cars right then and there. So everything is completely clean for the next renter.
And working with Christian has been like a big update for the fleet. So we've tried a few different hosts to partner with here in Denver to help with the cars, but we've tried a few people. Some of them have been good, some of them haven't been as good, but we've had Christian by far is the best person we've worked with. He really knows his stuff. And not only is he managing cars for clients, but he's also bought a bunch of cars for Turo for himself. He seems super passionate about it. His mom got into it. His brother bought a bunch of cars. It's kind of cool. So he's also managing some of your personal cars, right?
Every single car that we were managing, now he manages. So it's really given us Arslan Fleet the freedom to kind of step back and build different resources for our clients that we've been really wanting to do. To touch on that, 2 of the things that we're doing there is 1, we have a GPS product now that we've partnered up with Fleetwire to build. Fleetwire is one of the largest third-party management solutions for vehicles, and I'm working directly with the owner there, Chad, and we've put together the Fleetwire GPS, which is actually the same thing that you used earlier to pick up the car. So you arrived at the car, hit unlock on your phone, car opens up. So that GPS has a few cool features. It's got lock, unlock, kill switch, and then we also have an OBD plugin. So we're able to get all of the OBD diagnostics like engine codes, driving behavior, speedometer, fuel level. It's just an all-around like picture of what the car looks like remotely at any given time.
The product is really super cool. Like there's a bunch of different things on it. It's almost like the bouncy GPS, but the best part that makes it better is it has the remote unlock feature. Like you can literally put it into any car and it will do that for you.
It's super valuable to have that. If you remember when we had lock boxes on all of the cars, it was a mess because having a car sit there with a lockbox on the window just puts a target on that car's back. If a thief is looking for a car to steal and they are wondering where maybe a key might be, where do you think the key's going to be? It's going to be in the window lockbox. A lot of these lockboxes that Turo hosts are using are pretty insecure. Like we were spending pretty good money on lock boxes for all the cars. But then a thief would just come, rip it off the window, smash the box open, and take the keys out. And it was super easy for them. And they did it in a parking lot that had 24/7 security. What do you think when a host has their car just a random neighborhood? And so, yeah, it's been really cool to provide that feature where now we can provide a temporary link to guests like the one that you use. They come up to the car, locate the car on their phone because it shows the pinpoint of where the car is, get to the car, and then you can press unlock. Car unlocks, get in there, and then the key will be left in the car for the renter.
So Aaron, now I'm curious how your personal Turo fleet is going. So the last time I came out, you've had the $40,000 Jeep Wrangler. You've thought about selling it a couple times, but for what I understand, you've continued renting it out. And on top of that, you also have a Subaru Outback. Do you have any updates with your personal fleet?
Yeah, so the Jeep, I've contemplated selling it multiple times, as you know. I literally made a video about selling my Jeep and then didn't actually sell it. Honestly, I'm just attached to the car. I like the car, and I like to be able to, on a weekend that I want to use it, go to Christian and be like, hey, man, I want my Jeep for the weekend. So, yeah, Christian is fully managing my 2 cars that I own, and they're doing very well. They're doing as well as ever, and I don't have to lift a finger now.
What is the revenue that your Jeep's doing every month?
Jeep does around $1,700 in revenue per month, and it's got a rooftop tint, so I make a bit more on that as well. And so I give Christian his cut for management, and then I take the remainder.
And what's the payment on the vehicle?
I think I'm paying with insurance and everything like $700.
Okay.
It's a bit much.
So that brings you down to about like $600 profit, very conservatively, maybe up to like $800 or $900 in the summer months or when people go up to the mountains.
Yeah, I'd say profit. So I gave you the figure for the full revenue, but that's before I take my split. So I'd say the profit on the car, I'm probably around like $300-$400 a month profit, which is pretty good if I don't have to do anything and I just get a free Jeep to use.
Yeah, and you have to think, like, if the vehicle was paid off, the cash flow would be a lot higher, but literally getting paid $300 to $400 to get a Jeep at the end of the loan is kind of nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good deal for you. I'm sure you've had the car for a while now, so you're probably building some equity finally, because how car loans work is you pay a lot of that interest up front, so you'd be underwater at like maybe 1 year mark, maybe 18-month mark, but once you kind of get past that, you're paying off more of the principal and less of the interest, and you're building some equity in the car. I think that's a good plan. And how's the Subaru been doing?
That thing has been my best car. Like, it gives me no issues. Obviously, a Jeep Wrangler is going to have maintenance issues and everything. But recently, it actually had 2 accidents, which I never have had any accidents on that car. Like, out of all of the cars we manage, we barely even had many issues in terms of accidents with guests. But the car was sitting in the parking lot one day, and somebody apparently drove past it and just ripped the front fender off. So the front fender was completely hanging on the ground. It was actually posted in the Denver Facebook Turo group. And people were like, so sorry for whoever's car this is, but it's sitting in the parking lot right now and has the front ripped off. And so thankfully Christian was able to track down who did it.
Really?
And yeah, he got money out of them. So we got that repaired. And then finally put it back onto the platform after getting it repaired and everything. And the first trip back, somebody got rear-ended.
Damn.
So that thing's been going through it. But luckily, again, Christian was able to get the insurance from the individual that ran into the car, and we're getting that fixed up. I'm actually dropping that off probably today. And so we're going to get that fixed up. I already got an estimate on it. It's going to be above $6,000 of repairs.
Damn. So it's pretty bad.
It's bad enough. You know, that stuff adds up. It might not look crazy just looking at it, but when you consider that, you know, the back door needs to be replaced and 2 different panels need to be replaced and then they all have to be painted, it's going to add up and be a hefty price tag like that.
So for that first accident, how did Christian even find out who hit it?
Yeah, good question. So he did a bit of, I guess, detective work, and it ended up being one of his cars that he rented out to somebody else. They drove past the Subaru, and it was a big, beefy SUV, and the front tire ripped off the fender, and the guy just kept driving.
Oh, so he saw the damage on the other car and kind of put 2 and 2 together?
No, there was no damage because it was just the tire. It was just the rubber of the tire literally pulled off the front fender.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so I think he might have gotten security footage of that and saw that, but he also told me that he recognized the tire marks on the front fender and was like, oh, that looks like this car. And then I think he looked over at that car and was like, oh yeah, there's a bit of a scuff there. And so he contacted that guest and was like, hey, just calling you about, that apparently some damage happened to the Subaru Outback. And the guy didn't deny it or anything. And
Really?
He's like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Damn.
And so, yeah, Christian hunted him down and got that done for me.
At that point, like, you almost, like, committed technically a hit and run.
Yeah.
So it's, like, that's kind of funny that he, like, admitted to it, but it's probably smarter because then he won't get in, like, any trouble or anything.
Yeah.
He just has to pay for it, and then he's good.
And I'm sure the guy knew. I mean, there's cameras all around that lot. So I'm sure he knew that there was something coming for him.
For sure. So other than the Subaru being out right now, how much was it making before these accidents?
That one does also around 1,700. I'm very surprised at how well that thing's done for me. A Subaru Outback in Denver, Colorado is a moneymaker.
It's funny because that car cost you maybe $20,000, whereas the Jeep is like $40,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, wow. You're
Yeah.
making a lot more. It's almost worth it to get the cheaper car at that point.
Yeah, and that just goes to show, like, you need to do your research when you're buying a car. And off the bat, it was just like, I want to get a nice beefy car and get it paid for, which it worked, right? So I went out and I was like, I want a Jeep Wrangler because I'm in Denver, and then I want to throw a rooftop tint on it because it's badass. And so I did that, and it's been working. It's been paying itself off. But when you're really trying to make money on a car, that's when you have to be looking at more than just, hey, is this a cool car? You have to make sure that the ROI makes sense. You have to make sure that the car is reliable so you don't have to pay for a bunch of maintenance and all that. So I did a lot better of a job picking out the Subaru because I looked at a lot more things to make sure I was making a good investment versus just something that was cool.
That makes a lot of sense. So you research the car more for your market, whereas when you bought the Jeep, it was kind of like, oh, I want to buy this car and I'm going to rent it out on Turo to supplement the payment, which is cool, but that's not how you go about an actual business. I consider that more of a side hustle to where when you decided to scale and you bought the Subaru, you had the Prius for a while until it unfortunately got totaled.
Yeah.
You kind of did more research on the cars to know what works, what to rent out. If you guys are buying cars for Turo, just look at your market, see what's kind of being rented out, see how much of the same kind of car that you want to buy is in your market, and then just look at that pricing, how much it's being booked, and that will definitely help you determine if you find a good Turo car. And in this video, we're also going to be buying 6 cars, hopefully, in a single day for one of our clients. It's actually Christian's brother, so that's going to be exciting. Yeah. How do you feel with like how fast the fleet has grown? Because I think at the time I left the fleet, we were around 50 cars, and now we are approaching 80 vehicles probably after we buy the additional 6.
It's very exciting. It goes to show how well Christian has been managing these cars and just the resources that we've been able to kind of provide him as well to manage and organize everything. And then, of course, the new parking lot that he's using. A lot of the issues that we dealt with when we were managing the cars ourselves, those are just out of the window now. You know, those don't even exist. And so it's really cool to see him doing that. And he has the processes down and has built the management system in such a way that he's able to add another car and it costs him like a few minutes a day.
Yeah.
You know, so he's ready to just take on cars left and right and get to his goal is like 200 cars in Denver.
That's insane. I remember when I first met up with you guys, it was 100 cars by the end of the year. Didn't quite achieve it, but now at the next year, partnered with Christian, it's going to be over 100 vehicles, which is super exciting. That should definitely be hit this year, which is hype.
Yeah, we'll hit that in the next couple months. I'm very excited. We have people wanting to add cars left and right, so it's going to be growing very rapidly. It'll be fun to do. I'm excited about it.
For sure. What has kind of changed in your guys' strategy in terms of buying cars? Are you kind of going for more expensive vehicles, or what kind of like vehicles are you buying right now?
Previously, as you know, when you first came out, we were scouring everywhere for the best deal possible, going on like Facebook and Craigslist and buying cars there. You can get really good deals. I'm not going to tell anyone just completely rule that out because it's still a good opportunity in a lot of ways. However, because we've kind of gone through that so many times, you end up realizing why people are selling these cars.
There's always a reason.
There's always a reason, and they're able to cover up the major issues pretty easily. Like if the brakes need to be done, okay, just do the brakes. But when you're looking at, you know, do the seat belts work right? Or does this button work? Or does this window roll up and down correctly every time? You can only know that by having the car for like a month straight. And then you start to uncover these little things. And so what we've ended up doing is we're no longer buying cars private party. Facebook and Craigslist cars are out of the picture for us as a company because we want to make sure that the cars we're buying are going to last and are good for our hosts to manage. So we have a dealership, the one that we're going to and Christian's brother is buying 6 cars at. We have that dealership and a few others that we partner with now that are reliable. They've gone through all of the checks. A car doesn't end up in their inventory, nor does it get sold to a customer unless it checks out. Every single car that our clients are buying now are going to be great cars, ready to go, hit the road for Turo.
For sure. And we also have a good relationship with this dealership we've been working with. It's funny because in a previous video, Christian was actually the car salesman at the dealership. And eventually, at that time, he had maybe a couple Turo cars. I think he had 1 Turo car.
Yep.
He was just a little bit involved in it. He was curious. And then I think shortly after meeting with us, he started scaling more of his own cars. We partnered with him to help manage all of our vehicles. And now he quit his job at that dealership. He still has a really good relationship with them. And he just goes there to buy cars for clients, for himself. And they give us pretty good prices.
It's really cool to see how things have changed since you first came out. You came out and he was just some random guy across the desk at a dealership and trying to sell his cars. And then I think Chris was the first one that met him.
Chris and I were together.
Yeah.
I was literally filming and we were like, we're looking at a car to like buy for Turo. Is it cool if we film? And he was actually like, yeah, I'm probably the best person here to talk to since I'm kind of getting into Turo. I'm interested in it.
Yep.
And then shortly after that, he showed us a car. We didn't end up buying it that day, but we kept talking with him. And he was really interested in moving forward and scaling up a Turo fleet. So that was exciting.
We got so lucky by Chris sitting down with him rather than literally anyone else there. There's like 15 sales reps on the floor at a given time. So the odds that we sat down with Christian was very low, but it happened.
And it helped us achieve the ultimate goal of 100 cars, which is exciting. Yeah. We're not there yet, but it should be very soon.
Yeah, next few months. Just the fact that you sat down with Christian, he was at 1 car, and then Chris hits me up and he's like, Aaron, you need to meet up with this guy Christian. He's like on it. He's going to be the one that, solves the problem of buying cars. That was all we kind of saw him as at the time. Like, he's going to help us get cars into the client's hands. And then I go up and I meet with him, and I was running the fleet at the time. He started asking me and grilling me with like every single question about Turo and like, how do you do this? How do you set up your automated messaging? What GPS do you use? What do you do here? And I just gave him like a full-on rundown of everything that we do. A lot of times people ask you these questions and not take any action on what information you gave them. But then the next time I saw him, he was like, oh yeah, we got 10 cars on the fleet now. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Good work. And I was like, this guy's growing as fast as possible. And so when we got to the point, we were like, okay, we shouldn't be managing cars anymore because we want to work on the client dashboard and the GPS and, the podcast and stuff like that. We were looking for people who would take on the fleet. Like the whole fleet all at once. It's a tall order because we had like 50 cars on the fleet. And so I call up Christian and I'm like, hey, I want to meet with you. I've got an opportunity for you because I know you're trying to grow this thing. And so we sit down and I go over everything and I'm like, yeah, I mean, we're trying to do this and this. Like, it's still a great opportunity to manage these cars, makes a lot of money. I kind of didn't expect him to jump at it, but he was like, this might make sense. Like, I think I can do it. And so within about a month of that initial conversation, we end up transferring all the cars to his fleet, and he quits his job later that week, and then the rest is history.
That is such an insane story of like how everyone's at the right place at the right time. It's almost like it was meant to happen. It's kind of cool. That's sick. Yeah,
it was so cool. Yeah, we got very lucky. It's been a lot of building the right connections with this whole thing. So I mean, Chad at Fleetwire is another huge one, right? We're building a whole GPS company, which I personally think is going to be taking over like the GPS space for Turo, at least, because everything is so optimized for a Turo host, and it's going to be exactly what we always wanted out of a GPS, and now we're finally building it. Being able to meet up with Christian and have Chad as a partner is incredible.
Yeah, and with Christian, it's kind of crazy because like when he was first getting interested in Turo, he was similar to us in terms of attitude when he first started. He's like, I want to get as many cars as possible, as fast as possible. And then we provided him with some of the information that we learned over the time managing the cars. Then it kind of all came together and things sort of worked out because he got the information of what you learned over that period of time managing the cars, all the struggles and everything. And then he used that information. He partnered up with you to manage the cars and scaled up himself. So kind of worked out.
I've seen this in a few people who legitimately see the result of your hard work and they ask you questions because they know it's going to be valuable information and they act on it. Like, it's really cool seeing that effect on somebody else's business, because I'm more than happy. Like, anybody that stops me and asks me about Turo, I'm happy to share all of my insight, and only like 1% of the people that I actually give information to will act on it. So it's cool seeing him do that.
Exciting stuff. But now my question for you is, how much money are you making, bro?
Good question. So I'm at the point where it's, I would say, an Arslan Fleet relaunch. So I've been building these things that I've been telling you about. I've been working with the parking lot to make sure that our clients don't have to pay for parking. And at this point, nobody's going to have to pay for parking, which is cool, except for guests. And I've been making the client dashboard, because a lot of our issues when we were managing the cars was clients wouldn't know how much revenue they were making at any given time. They wouldn't know services that were needed on cars. They wouldn't know expenses that were needed. I've built that for our clients and hosts to be on the same page.
And what he means by that is they wouldn't know until the end of the month when they got the breakdown, whereas now they can log into a dashboard and see in real time how much money their car's making. So at any point in a month, they can check in to see how their car's doing, what the cost for maintenance is, how much revenue the vehicle's generating, and stuff like that. So it's kind of way better than having to wait until the end of the month to know how your vehicle did.
All of the questions or concerns from a client are now things that they could access on the dashboard. So when we were managing cars and people were looking for information, but we were communicating with guests and cleaning cars and doing like 100 things at once and couldn't get back as fast as possible with an answer, people would get upset about that, rightfully so, because they want information on the vehicle that's being managed. But now all of those questions are out the window. They now know at their fingertips, how much they're making, all of those things that you mentioned. So it's going to be really cool to be able to provide. That's just another thing that makes it even easier for any host that works with us to grow their fleet as fast as possible, because that is one of those huge headaches that now you don't have to deal with.
And I really respect you, because like you focused heavily on like the client experience and everything else before you worried about like making money for yourself. It's like kind of cool how you built everything like that. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm building my base right now.
Exactly. You grinded on that base. That was like an 18-month grind. And I think people don't realize that it takes like a ton of time to like build a business. Like, you're probably not going to make money, any real money, for like 2 years. After that, it's like, okay, you'll start making like a normal job salary. And then from there, it can kind of really scale up depending on what you do. It's kind of cool that, when do you think that you'll have like your first profitable months?
Probably once this video launches, honestly. I mean, you coming out here at this point, like, this was the perfect time for you to be here and see everything that's been built and see how much cleaner the fleet is run at this point. The GPS is about 2 weeks out, which should be in line with your video launching. And then Christian, his process already. And we have other hosts throughout the US who want to take on cars now using our system. As soon as your video launches, I'm expecting that to be the first very profitable month.
Hell yeah. I'm excited, bro. That'll be really, really sick.
Yeah.
So I think you're at a really good spot with stuff. It's just a crazy journey how like everything happened like from the beginning, like outsourcing to hosts, things not going well, us being like, okay, we're gonna manage the cars again, never mind, it's not gonna work. And it's like, it's so much trial and error. And I remember like the hour-long conversations on the phone trying to figure stuff out. But I guess like real quick, we're just gonna touch on this, me leaving the company. So the plan moving forward is, instead of like me having equity in the business and just being involved in the media side of things, we're kind of going more towards an affiliate structure. Like, I'm going to get paid for people I refer, just in a way that we're working together as two separate entities versus as a partnership. Because for those of you guys who've ever been in a partnership, you know that it's just a very difficult thing to do. Like, it rarely works out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we asked a lot of you that you didn't necessarily want to, nor should you have provided. We asked you to fully run our Arslan Fleet YouTube channel, which you had your own thing going on, and every single video you make is like a banger, and people end up wanting to get involved with the fleet anyway. So you having spent time on the Arslan Fleet channel would have just been a waste, because it didn't really make sense. So now you can fully focus on your YouTube. You can still do your own thing and then do every 6 months or so, maybe do an update video on where we are, and we'll hook you up with affiliates. If GPSs get sold, you're going to get a cut. If people sign on board to become an Arslan Fleet client and get a car managed by one of our power hosts, you're going to get a cut. So it's probably going to be more profitable for you this way and less work, which is kind of crazy.
And for you, like, you get 100% of something that you build. And if one day you ever like scaled insanely big to where you just have multiple hosts like around the country paying you that monthly fee, you get 100% of it. So in a way, I would say that you're profiting long term if you really implement, which you deserve it, because you built basically this entire system.
Yep.
I mean, for me right now, for what I'm trying to build, it just works better because I don't necessarily have the time for like everything that we're doing with the fleet. Although I have so much fun like learning about it, staying up to date. It's just the day-to-day of everything with like what I focus on is tough. But
yeah, and we were talking about earlier, like you having to come out all the time to film a video. You would get here and we'd have to just like basically scrape together new things to show in a video.
Yeah, because it's like I came out literally like a month before that, and it's like, okay, these are the issues. This is how much money we're making. This is how many cars we're at. And there got to a point where it was like I came out again to like film, and it was like very, very similar. I'm like, oh,
yeah,
what do we talk about? And I remember one of the last videos we ever did together, I was out for probably over a week filming stuff every single day, and I was telling Aaron, like, I don't know where this video's going. I don't know, like, what to update you guys with. And eventually, the Subaru gets stolen. And instead of being upset about it, I'm like, let's go, baby. Let's go. I get to film some content. And then it ended up being a big video about that. Like, that was, like, a pretty big part of the video. And it's not necessarily very positive, and it's a very small percentage of what we were doing the entire week. It's just I had already showed you all of the day-to-day stuff. There's only so much more you can do. So a big reason I left the company was just because of the content side of things. Like, I was supposed to be coming out filming for the channel all the time when sometimes there wasn't necessarily an update. And also I was just passionate about making videos on other things. So that's just kind of what I decided to do.
I think a lot of people would, if they were in my shoes and they partnered up with you and you made a video about this company's falling apart and a car's being stolen from the parking lot, they would probably be very upset about that and not the happiest campers. I really respect that you showed like the whole process. Like, you showed the headache, because now we can show where we are now, and it's going to make it that much more of a crystal clear picture that we've worked so hard to get here. I mean, the fact that a car gets stolen and then we start a GPS company because of it, and now we can kill switch cars if they're stolen, and we can track the cars that are stolen and all of that stuff. I think that really says a lot about us as a company. And so it's cool that everybody's seen the downfalls, and now we're going to see kind of the upside of things. And I'm sure there's going to be more downfalls.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that any company has like insane ups and downs, like in the beginning especially, but once you kind of figure things out, there's a turning point. Like everything I've ever done in the beginning, it's like this, like up and down. Things happen, you're doing better, you fix it, and then that wasn't the solution, so it goes down again, then you fix it again, and then eventually you kind of come up with something that is working. And like now with our new system, it's been working consistently for a few months. So things have been way smoother since Christian took over, and he's killing it with his system. He went above and beyond, almost like with what you did. Like, he partnered with your information and then like went to the next level of things, which is awesome.
I think the reason it works so well is because we have Christian 100% focused on managing vehicles. I was focused on managing vehicles, adding cars to the fleet, building dashboards, communicating with clients, all these different things when the cars needed to just be managed. And now Christian is just managing cars, and he's crushing it at that. And there's a lot of people out there that are just managing cars, and we can partner with them, and we provide all of the support on top of that.
So another major change that happened with Arslan Fleet is you no longer really have a ton of employees. That lowers payroll expenses a lot. It makes things a little bit different for you. So how's that change been?
It's been really nice. When we had a full team of people, we hired on a lot of good people who gave good ideas and insight on things. When you have a bunch of different opinions in and out of your ear all at once, you don't really have a clear picture of where to go with things. But now that I've been so ingrained with the Turo stuff, and I know what hosts need the most, I can take that information and do what I genuinely feel is best for everyone. So I think it's been really beneficial to just be on like a solo journey and figure out the best way that I can support, host, and have cars managed as well as possible. As much as I loved working with everyone that we worked with, I think this has been the most beneficial changes that the company has seen.
Now, my question for you is, what is your plan with the business moving forward?
Like I kind of mentioned earlier, we have a few different things that I've built that are revenue streams. So of course we have the GPS that we've partnered up with. So that'll be ideally a big revenue stream because it's going to be such a good solution for Turo hosts. And then we also have hosts that we partner with. Whenever I'm adding cars to their fleet, they're paying me a fixed price for the support that I give them to manage the cars. And of course, the clients that add cars, they're paying a setup fee to get those photos taken, get the descriptions made, get the car into the hands of a qualified host. And then at some point in the future, I'm going to make a coaching course. And so that should be another revenue stream as well, where I can just spill all of my secrets on Turo. And I think that'll be very valuable. And obviously I won't charge too much for it because I don't want to gouge people of their money, because I know Turo is a tight business with small margins sometimes.
And on top of that, you're also making money from your own cars. Do you have any plans maybe in the future when you're making a little bit more money to continue expanding your personal fleet?
Yeah, I mean, what I want to do is anywhere that I want to be able to travel to and have a car, I want a car to live there, because I imagine at some point soon, we're going to have hosts all throughout the United States in some of the most attractive places to visit. And I wouldn't mind having a vehicle that I could say, hey, book this car off for me. And I might be more on a lot of our clients will put cars on with us for investment purposes, which is great, and they make money off that. But then a lot of other clients will put on cars with us because they just want a car being paid for, and then whenever they need it, they can go and they can book the car off and have a car to use. So I think I would fall into that category where I would be using cars for pleasure, but also it makes me money in the meantime. So yes, I would definitely planning to add more and more cars as we go, but I haven't really gotten a game plan for how hard I want to go with that or how many cars I want to do. But of course, that's going to keep growing.
I find it really cool because like Turo is something that can either be a side hustle or it can be a business. So a lot of clients like to rent out their cars as a way to supplement the payment, and then they have a free car if they ever need one. Or they might be out of state and they travel to Denver a lot and they have a car in Denver being rented out on Turo, but when they're in town, they have a free car. I feel like that's kind of an interesting way to do things. And maybe eventually when we expand our business, we'll have like a bunch of different locations and a lot of different people doing that. So now being in the business for 18 months, what are your thoughts on Turo as an investment?
Good question. And I'm not a financial consultant or anything, so take it with a grain of salt. But I'd say there's two types of people that are investing in Turo. I'd say my first two cars that I bought are very representative of that. So of course, the first car that I bought was my Jeep Wrangler, beefed up, expensive car. And it was just like a cool car that I wanted to have access to. And so that's, I'd say, one person that is interested in Turo. Somebody that just wants to pay off a car payment, make a bit more money, maybe some profit on the side with their car payment, and then have on certain weekends, you can take that car and go up to the mountains or whatever you want to do.
It's cool because you get a free car, and if you're lucky, you make $300-$400 a month. But for the most part, that car is paying for itself, and you get to enjoy it when you want to. And in Denver, a Jeep is a perfect car to do that with.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really cool thing that Turo's been able to give people access to. When else has buying a $40,000 Jeep Wrangler been something that you can fully supplement and not have to end up paying at all for the car? You know, it's really cool. So that's person A, is somebody that maybe travels a lot and just wants a cool car to use when they're home. Now, person B is somebody that's using it more of like an investment. When I bought my Subaru Outback, I think that was a bit more representative of person B because it was a lower payment car. It was only $20,000 versus $40,000. And then it performs nearly as well as my Jeep Wrangler, and it doesn't have as much maintenance, and it was more research. And so I'd say that's the second person that gets into Turo.
100%. So there's definitely two types of people. With the investment type, you're usually buying a car around $20,000. Depending on your market, it could be a Toyota Corolla, it could be a Subaru Outback, a Honda CR-V. different cars like that, usually around the reasonable price point, definitely under $30,000, at least in most markets, unless there's a big luxury market in your area. But for most people, it's just the cars that everyday people get on a vacation, because the average person isn't renting a Jeep Wrangler on Turo when they're in Denver for a few weeks and just need a car to get around. Whereas like other people who just want to go to the mountains would rent a car like that. So it's just like a different type of clientele.
Yep.
And that's just how it works. But yeah, Turo is definitely something that I'm thinking about getting back into. So I'm telling people 100,000 views, share it with a friend, and I will buy a car to put on our fleet. So
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Sick.
Yeah.
I look forward to working together, bro. I'm happy. I was telling the people, like, I'm happy it's not awkward between us after me leaving the company. Did it ever get awkward?
No, it was just like we talked about yesterday. It's just got to make sure your relationships are still good relationships at the end of the day. And so I like to try to handle things as smoothly as possible. And I think that is honestly the reason why contracts are so important, because at the end of the day, like if we need to figure out how you can best leave the company, we can read the contract and be like, okay, this is what we said we're going to do. And I think that's a really clean way to do things.
Definitely put everything in writing, no matter if it's your best friend or a random person you met. So that's a big tip with partnerships.
Yep, definitely.